Welcome to today's training video. My name is Edwin Linares and I'm your instructional designer. Today, we're diving into something incredibly important: accessibility. Not as a checklist, but as a doorway. A doorway that ensures every student, regardless of ability, can access, understand, and succeed in your course content. To start off our session, we're going to go ahead and bring up a very important question. What is accessibility? Accessibility is the practice of designing content so that it can be used by everyone. So, when you are developing documents, think of your document like a building. If there's only stairs, some students will be left out. Accessibility adds the ramps, the elevators, the signs, so no one is guessing how to get in. So for today's objectives, we're focusing on 3 key things. The first is to understand the core components of an accessible document. The second objective is to practice how to fix accessibility issues in real time. And finally, we will be checking and exporting your document as an accessible PDF document. So this won't just be theory. You'll actually be doing the work alongside me. For the first objective, we must recognize the core components of an accessible document, including the structure, the readability, and the usability for individuals with visual and cognitive disabilities. Those core components are composed of headings and styles, alternative text for images, text contrast, descriptive links, and lists and tables. Together, these components develop into an accessible document. These elements create structure, not just visually, but for screen readers and assistive technologies. To achieve the second objective of today's training, we will be modifying a sample document using step-by-step guidance to reinforce learning through hands-on experience. So now it's your turn. Please open the document that was shared with you. Make sure that you open your document using the Microsoft Word software that's in your laptop, and we will be walking through this document together, step by step. Now that you've opened up the document that has been provided to you, I would like to cover some essential information. This document, as it stands, is not currently accessible. As we go through each section of this document, we will be making the adjustments necessary to make this document accessible. Each section tackles a specific component that is related to accessible documents. Therefore, to begin, we will start with headings, the backbone of your document. Right now, many documents look structured, but to a screen reader, it's just a wall of text. To address this issue, we must first identify what components within our document will serve as headers. For example, the title of our document will be considered to be a header. Now, the question here is, what kind of header would this be? Well, since this is the title of our document, we would probably want to make this header a title header. Now, the way to identify the type of header and to implement it, there are very easy steps to this. First, you highlight your text. Then you go up to the ribbon, which, by the way, this entire thing is called a ribbon. And you want to find the section that is called Styles. You click on the drop-down arrow and you would be able to see all the different types of headers. Not just headers at this point, also subtitles, quotes, and different types of font styles for your text. In this case, I will be applying title to this text, and voila. For section 1, since this is a header, this would be a specific type of header where it's not a title, but it would be considered the first header. Therefore, it would be heading 1. For step-by-step instructions, this would be the second level beneath heading 1. Therefore, this would be heading 2. For bonus tips, this would be my header 3. And then for the practice task, this is my header 4. And I've established my sections that way so that it is easily navigable for students. It is important to emphasize that by implementing a style onto a header, I am adding meaning to the text, not simply just bolding or changing the fonts. Now I'm going to take it a little step further. In order for me to be able to see the structure that is within this document, the steps that I would take would be to go to View at the ribbon, and I would select Navigation Pane. When I select this, notice that on the far left side, I now have a structure that is found within the documents. This navigation pane tool is integrated into Microsoft Word so that it can help provide you a sense of how the structure is within the document, and also allows the student to navigate throughout the content of the documents. If you take a closer look at the structure of this document, notice that section 1 immediately goes to section 3. That's because section 2 currently does not have any heading styles applied. Therefore, our practice task here is to adjust the headings for sections 2 using the instructions listed below. Let's go on over to section 2. Now, section 2 here will be considered our first header. Therefore, I will implement the heading 1 style onto this text. By the way, if you don't want to go over to the ribbon in order to apply the style, you can also highlight, and notice that this option pops up as well. So I'll click here and I will look for heading, would just be heading 1. Boom. And now it has been applied. If you don't seem to like the font, the color of the heading style, then what you could do is you can make the adjustments that you'd like, such as wanting it to make it a different color and maybe bold it. And at this point, you would again leave the text highlighted. You would go to styles, and then what you would do is you would right click on heading 1 and select update heading 1 to match selection. When you make that selection, it will mass apply it to every other heading 1 style. Notice that once we've established the heading 1 style onto the section 2 heading, section 2 now pops up on the navigation pane. So now what we're going to do is we're going to implement the styles onto the next headers. So for step-by-step instructions, that would be considered my heading 2. For bonus tips, this would be my heading 3. By the way, bonus tip is just another set of information here to help you and guide you. And then lastly, practice task would be my heading 4. Now, as I've structured out my section or my headings, you can now see that it tends to go in an order, a drop-down order. And this is the structure that we speak about that is within your document. The next component within our accessibility document deals with images. Without alt text, you can think about images as a silent movie with no subtitles. So, in order for us to make the adjustments for incorporating alt text and images, what we would do is we'd select the image, right click, And we would look for the option that states View Alt Text. Now, when you select that option, notice in the far right section, there is a pane that pops up. This is your alt text pane. So if you wanted, you can describe the image yourself. But there's also an option to have alt text generated for you. If you press this button, notice that once you press the button, it would take a couple seconds, but there will be a description of the elements within the image. It's important that you read through the description to see if it is an accurate description of what is in your image. If you approve this description of the image, you would just select Approve Alt Text, and that's all that you would do. So then all we would have to do is the same thing here. Generate alt text for me. Give it a couple seconds. It's the logo of Galveston College. If you approve, go ahead and select Approve Alt Text and then move on to the next image. And then lastly, for our last image, I selected for AI to generate a description. I've read through it, I approve, and I move on. And that's really all there is to this section here. Within Word, AI makes it very easy to have a description already drafted. If there's any edits that you'd like to make, you are more than free to make those adjustments. Let's start talking about text contrast. If your text blends into the background, it disappears for a lot of students. One key feature within Word is that it tends to display where there might be accessibility issues. So if you notice, my text seems to be a little bit too light of a color, so therefore there is no color contrast. There's not enough contrast between the text and the background so that students are able to differentiate. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, it's pretty simple. Highlight text and just choose a color that will provide that contrast between the background and the text. And that's all it is, folks. The fourth section within this accessibility document deals with hyperlinks. The biggest issue here is that URLs or generic links are not as descriptive as they should be. What you want to do is to focus on making links descriptive enough to where a student or individual knows where this link will redirect them to. At the bottom of this section, notice that I have one URL link. This URL link is not descriptive, therefore the way that we will make that descriptive would be to first highlight the text. Right click on the highlighted text and look for an option that states Edit Hyperlink. This pop-up window will show up, and the box that I want you to focus on is the text to display box. Instead of having a URL link display, we will be typing in Galveston College main web page. Once we input our text, we'll click on OK, and now our link is descriptive. When students click on this link, it will redirect them to the GC website. Section 5 of the accessibility document covers lists and tables. The issues are that manual bullets and tables often are structured without headers. So, for the purposes of this section, the most important thing to know about lists is that you would essentially highlight as you make your way to the ribbon. You look for either the bullet list or the numbered list, depending on whichever you need. In this case, it would be numbered. And this right here would be recorded within the structure of the document. As we make our way down to the table, the most important part of this table are the headers, this top. Therefore, for us to properly format the header row, what we must do is first highlight the header row, right-click, select Table Properties. Once we get to Table Properties, what we would want to do is we want to unselect to allow row to break across pages, and then we want to select Repeat as header row at the top of each page. The reason why we want to do that is so that if this table breaks across another page, then the header row will be read again, and the student will be able to determine and to know what information falls under that specific column. The last and most important part of this training is checking the document. Section 6 of the accessibility document covers checking the document for accessibility and then finally exporting it as a PDF with accessible tags, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. But essentially, in order for us to review this document for accessibility, what we would want to do is we want to go to the Review tab. In the ribbon, we want to find the Accessibility button. When we click the Accessibility button, notice that on the right side, we will have options that pop up and will indicate if there are any accessibility issues. Therefore, we have one here. We are missing one alt text for this image. So what we're going to do, we're going to generate the description of this image. We will review this and then either approve or unapprove and make those adjustments. Once we make the adjustments, we'll then review our accessibility panel again, and it seems that everything here is good to go. Therefore, we'll go ahead and close that and move on to the next step. After reviewing your document and making sure that it is now accessibility compliant, the last step here is to export this as a PDF. Now, there are a couple steps and checkboxes that we would need to check in order to make sure that this is accessibly compliant. What we would want to do at this point is we would want to go over to File. Now we want to export. And at this point, we're going to select Create PDF XPS Document, select the Next button. Now, notice there will be a button underneath here, this option, where we will select it and we will look for the option that states Document Structured Tags for Accessibility. Please ensure that this option is marked. If it is, go ahead and press OK and publish. Now, once we bring this document over to a PDF, we can then begin to see the tags that are within this document. In order to view the tags that are within the PDF document, the steps that you would need to take are as follows. You would need to find the menu button at the top left corner, select menu, scroll down until you see the view option, which will then pop out another window. Scroll down until you see Show Hide. Find the next selection that says Side Panels, and then finally select Accessibility Tags. When you make those selections, what you will notice is on the right side, you will now see the accessibility tags. This tag panel displays the hierarchy structure of the document, showing how content is organized and tagged for accessibility. Tags are essential for screen readers and assistive technologies to interpret the document correctly.